to Friday on GB News.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
The national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio or online, every morning it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
We are GB News, right across the nation. You can get us on television, on radio, on digital. We're absolutely everywhere.
Amazing! You see, amazing!
You remind me of me in the European Parliament. But here's the most important bit. We are not part of the mainstream establishment. We think and speak just like you do. We are the People's Channel.
Magnificent. That's really, really thoughtful.
Come and join us on GB News, the People's News Channel.
Join me, Nana Akue, Saturday and Sunday afternoons on GB News. Expect fiery debate and passionate discussion as me and my panel tackle some of the biggest topics hitting the headlines. It's a place for everyone's opinion. No one gets cancelled, but no one gets an easy ride.
Oh, she's on it today!
Be ready for conversations that are fierce, frank, and of course, fun. Every Saturday and Sunday afternoon from 4 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
And right across the United Kingdom.
You can find us on Sky Channel 512.
Virgin Media Channel 604.
Freesat Channel 216.
Freeview Channel 236.
And YouView Channel 236.
You can also take us with you on DAB Plus Radio.
With the GB News app and at the website gbnews.uk.
We're absolutely everywhere.
Come join us on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, I'm Ray Addison in the GB Newsroom. The mother of Harry Dunn says her promise to get justice for her son is well and truly complete following the sentencing of Anne Sakoulas for causing his death by careless driving. The wife of a US diplomat received 8 months in prison, suspended for 12 months. In 2019, she was driving on the wrong side of the road when she hit the 19-year-old and later pleaded guilty to causing his death. Mrs. Sakoulas says she's deeply sorry for the pain that she's caused. Speaking outside of the court, Harry's mum, Charlotte Charles, praised the verdict and awarding for those watching on TV. This clip contains flashing images.
You know, Anne Sakoulas has a criminal record for the rest of her life. That was something that, you know, she never thought she'd see, the US government never thought that they'd see. And we've worked tirelessly and relentlessly to make sure that she, in the end, still had to do what you and I would have had to have done. So, yeah, Harry, we done it. And we're good.
15 children under the age of 15 have now died from Strep A. The UK Health Security Agency says 13 died in England since September, whilst Northern Ireland and Wales recorded 1 death each. Health officials say there's currently no evidence of a new strain, and the rise in cases may be due to bacteria being transferred during increased social mixing. Well, meanwhile, waiting lists for routine NHS treatment in England have hit a record high, and A&E performances are now at a record low. According to the NHS, 7.2 million people were waiting to start routine treatment at the end of October, and just 67% of A&E patients were seen within 4 hours of being admitted. Ambulance response times have improved, but are still more than 40 minutes behind the 18-minute target. The government has defended its decision to open the first UK coal mine for 30 years, saying it will create hundreds of jobs. The Levelling Up Secretary has given planning permission for the new mine in Cumbria, despite a government commitment to phase out coal. COP26 President Alok Sharma called the decision a backward step. Speaking to GB News, Shadow Chancellor Rachel Reeves would not say if a future Labour government would close the pit.
We want to create jobs in the north of England, including in Cumbria, but we will be doing that by investing in the jobs and the industries of the future. We've got today a fossil fuel Prime Minister in the age of renewables, investing in the industries of the past rather than those of the future.
And senior palace sources are denying claims that the royal family declined to comment on allegations made in the Duke and Duchess of Sussex's Netflix series. Now, it's understood that Kensington Palace did receive an email from a third-party production company, but attempts to verify it received no response. That contradicts a statement made at the start of the programme. In the series, Harry accuses the royal family of a huge level of unconscious bias. On TV, online and on DAB Plus Radio, this is the People's Channel, GB News. Time now for those headliners.
Hello and welcome to Headliners, your first look at Friday's newspapers. I'm Andrew Doyle. Tonight I'm joined by the Headliners stalwarts, Leo Kearse and Nick Dixon. But first, let's have a look through the front pages. We're going to start with the Daily Mail, which has Palace anger at assault on the Queen's legacy. And the Telegraph runs with Sussex's TV show claims are direct hit to late Queen's legacy. That's going to be a common theme throughout the papers. Friday's Eye, new anti-strike laws could make strikes worse, admits government. The Guardian runs with Iranian forces shooting at faces and genitals of female protesters. And the Mirror has stop this royal circus. The Times, Palace and Netflix clash over Sussex's royal opera. And the Daily Express, Friday's Express so hurtful. Royals deeply upset by Harry's slurs. And the Daily Star also goes with the Netflix Harry and Meghan story. And they say official verdict on £90 million Netflix series. It's not as good as Homes Under the Hammer. Oh, that's damning. And those were your front pages. And let's start with the big story dominating today. This is the front page of the Daily Mail. Nick, what have we got?
Yep, they've gone with Palace anger at assault on the Queen's legacy. It's as if they want to bring down monarchy, say insiders. And then there's a series of other very damning stories at the top, like Sarah Vine, Harry's a damaged man and I feel for him. Yes. Robert Hartman, thank goodness our late Queen didn't have to endure this. So I had to endure it because I decided to watch.
You've watched it?
I watched the first episode and specifically for work because I'm a professional. I was like, I'm going to have to talk about this on GB News. I'm going to have to talk about it on the Weekly Skeptic podcast, available on all platforms. So I thought I better watch it. And I've managed to watch the first episode. And I've come out with basically feeling the same as I went in, that Harry's a damaged young man and Meghan's a sort of narcissistic, unlikable opportunist. And it's exactly what I thought. If you watch
prejudices were confirmed.
They were, but I went in with an open mind and came out with the same view. I mean, the parts about Diana are very moving. There's footage of Princess Diana trying to stop the paparazzi photographing her children an excessive amount on a ski holiday. And I find it very moving because we all love Diana. I remember my own childhood and I just thought Diana was so great. And then Harry was obviously deeply wounded by his mother's death. That's a very moving section as well. Then he goes to Lesotho and tries to continue the legacy of Princess Diana. I thought that was very admirable. Now, where it all goes wrong is where it involves Meghan, because what he seems to have done, in my armchair analysis, sort of Freudian analysis, he's tried to sort of replace his mother. He says that Meghan was very like Diana. The key difference is Diana was shy and didn't like the attention, whereas Meghan's an actress who's just loving this role of her life.
You really think that seeing one episode of this, you think it is all about Meghan? Isn't Harry partly to blame for the way in which he's been estranged from his family?
Yeah, he's partly to blame, but what he says he at first she gave up everything, then he sacrificed everything to enter her world. What he's done is, and you see that she has total control. You see their body language. He's sort of constantly looking to her for approval, while she just stares dead ahead at the camera, like her loving her acting role.
Yes, and I think a great white shark.
Right, and he's just become lost.
Can we really, though, Leo, in all seriousness, can we possibly have any genuine insight into this relationship? People we don't know. Of course, we're watching this Netflix show, but this has been hugely orchestrated. It's fabricated. You know, really, is there much insight to be gleaned?
Yeah, I think there is, because we've seen with another royal, with Prince Andrew, you know, sometimes people present themselves and reveal the most when they think they're being the best advocates for themselves. Like Prince Andrew's interview with Emily Maitlis, he was in control of that. And he still managed to reveal so much through...
He thought it went well.
Yeah, he was like, let's do another one.
Do you think Harry and Meghan think this has gone well? Bear in mind that they will have had editorial control, presumably. They will have, shaped this, crafted it. And this is the best advert you can imagine for them. And you're still coming out and saying they look like horrible people.
Because, yeah, exactly, Meghan thinks this has gone well. Because if she is... She obviously has dark triad traits, which is narcissism, Machiavellianism, psychopathy. I don't know which one she has, but at least one. And that just comes across. But, of course, she lacks the self-awareness to realise it. She's also rude about the Queen. She does that curtsy. I'm not onto that bit yet, but I've seen clips where she does that curtsy and it's kind of mocking a royal family and our traditions, and Harry just sort of even looks uncomfortable himself at that moment. But, yeah, it's tragic watching it. I'm not saying he has no blame at all. I'm just saying I come out with some sympathy for this sensitive young man who lost his mother, but I come out with zero sympathy for Meghan.
Leo, do you have any interest in watching it?
Not really. Not even to create content for my own YouTube channel now.
We're not here to advertise other projects, guys. Come on, focus.
I think it's almost like a Rorschach blot that people can look at, because so many people on the left, like The Guardian, gave it 3 stars. So many people on the left, see her as this icon of fighting back against systemic oppression.
What, this billionaire, whatever she is?
Yeah. And it's the language they use. They're talking about we're going to reveal my truth. We're going to reveal our personal truth. It's like, what about the actual truth? Can we not have the actual truth?
Oh, you're so old-fashioned, Leo. Actual truth. It'll never catch on. Let's turn to The Guardian now. What have The Guardian led with today? This is interesting. They have got a picture of Meghan and Harry, but it's not really about that with The Guardian.
It's not about that. So they mentioned, I'll just briefly mention, they've got a suspended sentence for the killer of Harry Dunn. So that was Anne Sakalis, who's a US former spy, who's driving on the wrong side of the road, because obviously, we drive on the different side of the road here, and she was done for careless driving instead of dangerous driving. So she got an 8-month suspended sentence. So it's not really anything. If she doesn't get into trouble over the next 12 months, she won't be doing that 8 months in jail. She'll just be free. So I don't really see it as justice. She killed someone. But the main story, and this is an exclusive in The Guardian, is Iranian forces are shooting at the faces and genitals of female protesters.
Right.
According to doctors, and the doctors are speaking under condition of anonymity. Doctors who've been treating the wounded protesters have also been threatened by the regime. They're having to do some of the operations with no lighting, so that the regime doesn't know that it's going on. But it's crazy. So basically, men and women are coming in with different wounds in different parts of the body. Men are being shot in the legs, the buttocks, and the back, and women are being shot in the face and the genitals.
And this is these pellets, these kind of
shotgun pellets.
Shotgun pellets.
Yeah.
And this shouldn't be surprising, should it? Because this regime, since its inception in 1979, has always been deeply misogynistic in nature. And of course, this kind of gender-based violence makes sense because they want to punish women for being women, right?
Yeah, and it's not the first Islamist regime or organisation that's punished women through sexual violence. So they're trying to, according to one physician, they say they're punishing the women like this because they want to destroy their beauty. They want to destroy their worth and their value.
So this is reminiscent of acid attacks in the face, which you often see in these kind of regimes.
Yeah.
Nick, do you have any thoughts? I mean, it's difficult to have a take on this because it's just so obviously horrific.
Exactly, that's basically my only take. It's like you said, it seems to be particularly targeted on the fact it's women. A doctor here speculating that they shoot at the faces and private body parts of women because they have an inferiority complex. They want to get rid of their sexual complexes by hurting these young people. So incredibly disturbing. On the Harry Dunn thing, I just say that was interesting as well. His mother felt that this was finally justice because to even get this amount of justice has taken 3 years.
Yeah.
She tried to dodge it with this diplomatic immunity, which eventually was thought not to be a strong enough factor. So finally they actually got a sentence, but like Leo says, not a particularly strong sentence, but at least the mother has some justice. The judge was just quite sort of lenient. He said he bore in mind that it was a short period of driving and she wasn't familiar with the English roads, and I accept your genuine remorse.
Yeah,
so,
I mean, that's fair enough. I'm sure she didn't deliberately mean to do this, and I'm sure she is feeling horribly remorseful
about it. But she did flee the country. She abdicated her responsibility.
So that comes out of fear, doesn't it?
Abused her diplomatic immunity.
Yeah, no, I'm not justifying any of that.
Diplomatic immunity isn't there to sort of help you escape crimes like this.
No, I'm not in disagreement at all. Of course, she should have faced trial. But the point about it is that I don't think that was malicious. I think it was fear and terror, and she wanted to get away from a punishment.
Well, nobody wants to go to jail.
No.
Well, she's not going to jail.
Right. No. But at least, as the mother of Harry Dunn said, there is now a criminal record. There is some kind of justice there. So that's it's something. Let's move on now. Front page of The Eye. What are they running with?
Well, they've got new anti-strike laws could make strikes worse, admit government. Quite an interesting... I know, right. not exactly what you want from an anti-strike law. So you sort of read it and think, well, OK, what's the flaw in these policies? And then you realise all it actually means is that strikers will seek retribution and they'll just do things like working to rule, or they'll just refuse to show up and they'll get fired, and that will cause disruption. So it's really not that the policy will make it worse, it's people's response to the policy.
So the new policy, the idea is that in moments when people are striking, they have a minimum service on travel and nursing and that kind of thing. And this is something they do in many countries in Europe anyway.
France and Spain do it, yeah.
But it's not the case, is it, that abroad these things create further strikes and further problems?
Well, that's it. And that's been the pushback from the Department of Transport. They've said we understand the comprehensive assessment of risks in preparing impact assessments, but this does not mean that these are likely. Identifying these risks allows us to improve design.
They are. It's supposed to be the people who are supporting the strikes.
Exactly. Exactly what you said. The people who support the strikes anyway.
Now, Leo, I know you've got some feelings about strikers.
I do.
You're big sympathy with them.
No, I mean, I don't. I think if you think you can get a better job, if you think you're worth more money, go and try and get more money. You know, if you're working as a train driver for whatever 70 or 80 grand a year, you think you get more money sitting on your bottom pressing buttons all day. Like, go and try and do that. I think you'll find it's a bit tougher than you think. And I think you'll find that actually these unions are like a mafia. And in fact, historically...
But you know, Leo, it's not always the workers that instigate this. It is often the unions that instigate
Exactly, yeah. So reject your union.
Is that always an option?
Reject your union. We're in a free market. Or, I mean, we're in a free labour market.
And would you say that the employers ought to just fire anyone who strikes?
Yeah, I mean, it was working for Elon Musk. He's gone into Twitter and he's just fired people on whims.
Leo,
some people went on strike at Twitter, so he fired them. It's a fantastic system.
You're sounding more and more like that Instagram parody account of you.
Is there a parody account of him?
Yeah, just because all these woke leftists, it's very good.
Oh, very accurate.
It's like they put so much effort into it. I'm absolutely delighted.
OK, let's move on now to The Times. Front cover of The Times. What have they got, Leo?
Yeah, so more sort of workplace related stuff. So Labour are saying they're willing to talk about higher pay rises for NHS staff. So, I mean, I think in Scotland they agreed, was it 8%? I can't remember. They've already agreed a pay rise for NHS staff in Scotland, obviously paid for by England. Thanks for that. But yeah, the Labour are saying, you know, if they get in, or when they get in, then they will renegotiate and possibly give the NHS.
Not a surprise. Labour being supportive of the welfare state. I mean, I would have thought that was...
It's a vote winner. They're buying votes. This is pure electioneering. They're saying, you know, this is like some Mugabe would do. Yeah. He's saying, like, oh, if I get in, I'm going to give you all money.
I don't think that's fair, because I think if they do get in, they will. I think they will prioritise nurses. Well, surely they will, because that's part of their...
I'm not saying they won't bribe people. I'm saying they will. They definitely will come through in this plan to bribe nurses.
So how are you sceptical?
Well, I'm sceptical because it's Wes Streeting just saying something vague to maybe get votes, like Leo says. But he also says we're not going to make any promises we can't keep. It's just nothing, really. It's nothing at all. It's just saying we might consider giving the NHS more money. That's good, isn't it, guys? There's no actual plan for how they're going to fund the NHS or restructure it.
But
things that people actually want,
right? Nurses should be paid more.
Yeah, perhaps they should be, but I just think it's so vague. It's nothing. It's nothing at all. I mean, Starmer's got his plan to sort of level up and things like that and give more power. But what it really means is he's going to move a few civil servants around.
Yeah, and he's great at sort of great sound bites that, you know, sound like he's serious about issues. Like he was talking tough on immigration. He was saying, you know, we're going to limit immigration so it doesn't affect the labour market too much and, you know, it doesn't depress wages too much. But he's obviously not going to do anything.
Well, I'll tell you what, Leo,
ever done anything.
We're going to find out, aren't we? Because they are definitely going to be in next time. It's time for a quick break now, so join us in 2 minutes when we'll be discussing going home for Christmas, the circle of life in Qatar, and a prisoner swap. See you in 2.
We are GB News, and we'd like to say thank you to each and every one of you for bringing us your conversations, for helping our great nation find its voice. We are here for you on radio, television, and online, across England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland.
It's not the BBC, you know, you actually get your facts right.
We are proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates. Do you not believe in prison?
I don't believe in prison.
I'm completely stunned. I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed.
So I guess they've always been quite woke.
That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello there, it's Eamon Holmes here from Breakfast on GB News. We're not just on your television and your screens, you know.
We're on DAB plus digital radio, so you can listen to your favourite shows on the move.
If you've not yet listened to GB News Radio, it's very simple. We're on your radio player and TuneIn apps, on your smart speaker, phone or tablet, or online at gbnews.uk.
Take us with you wherever you go. GB News Radio.
You never have to miss a moment of the People's Channel.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. for Gloria Meets. In exclusive interviews, I'll be finding out who our politicians really are and what they really think.
It's something that you would never want anyone to suffer.
I didn't know what channels there were. I didn't think I'd be believed.
I must have weighed about 7 stone and I'm 5'8". My instincts was to sort of cover this up. I mean, clearly that was a mistake.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners, your first look through Friday's newspapers with me, Andrew Doyle, and I'm still here with Leo Kearse and Nick Dixon. We're going to move on to Friday's Guardian. And are the government dictating our Christmas for a third year in a row? Nick, what's this about?
Yes, Suella Braverman urges people to rethink Christmas holiday flight plans, and this is because of undeniable serious disruption that will take place if planned border force strikes go ahead, so more strikes. And the plan is to bring in 600 soldiers to check passports instead, and reports have claimed that up to 30% of flights could be cancelled. So this is where they lose me, the strikers. Now, I'm not quite as militant as Leo. My granddad was a union man, you know. I support the coal mine in Cumbria. I'm just down with the workers generally. But this is where I question it, because you're disrupting Christmas. And when you look into it, you bring in the army, and the army aren't allowed to strike. And is this fair? Because a private in the army gets 22 grand a year. The average train driver's salary is 60,000, about twice what that of an average army person. So, you know, Mick Lynch himself gets 130k a year. And at some point, you've got to say, is this right that the army have to pick up the slack?
But we're not at war at the moment, so maybe we should just sack all these other people and get the army to do it.
Well, yeah, permanently, yeah. Give them 60 grand. Why not? Yeah.
We kind of are at war, though, because we're training up Ukraine's forces.
OK.
The war...
well, in that case, it's not a good use of our time, is it, for army soldiers to be manning passport booths?
Yeah, and to be honest, this is going to save Christmas for a lot of people. I mean, I might not have to fly and see my mother-in-law.
OK, well, so maybe there's an upside to all of this.
Yeah, yes, I'm really crossing my fingers that.
And is it right?
Ahead.
Is it just for international flights? This won't affect, domestic flights or anything like that.
Well, they say. I mean, they say it's just for border control.
Yes.
But I mean, I think once there's disruption in the system, we've already seen how fragile the system is from lockdown.
I just note that I'm going to be flying within this period. I just wonder whether it's going to affect me. It's all about me.
You think you are?
I know I will be.
It depends on the military.
Whether they're efficient. I think the army are going to be more efficient at passport control than anyone else.
Yeah. Well, of course.
So not a problem. This might be an improvement.
Turn up buy some medal ribbons or something.
Yes.
Then they'll wave.
Buy some. I've got some from when I was a Cub Scout. I mean, it's not really medal. You stitch them on your jumper, but it's a similar kind of thing. Anyway, we're going to move on now to another story, and this one is in Friday's Guardian. And a not-so-friendly welcome at the EU borders. Leo, have you got this one?
Yeah, so thousands of migrants and asylum seekers are facing an unprecedented rise in violence at the EU's border, including beatings, forced undressing and sexual assaults, according to this report that's exposed thousands of alleged illegal expulsions.
When it's saying the EU's border, that's pretty vague. I mean, it's surely specific countries?
They're talking specifically about the Polish-Belarusian border, so they don't actually mention it in this article. The Guardian always tries to, cloak what's really going on because they've got their own agenda. But people, migrants were being bussed to the Polish border through Belarus by Putin. So he wasn't driving the bus, but basically Russia was putting adverts in Syria and some African countries saying, we will give you a free flight to Belarus, to Minsk, and then drive you to the border, because they wanted to create a huge influx, create a huge problem for the EU to deal with, and they were doing it in winter, so then there'd be horrible pictures of migrants in the cold
struggle. To be very fair to The Guardian, you know how I love to be fair to The Guardian. They do mention that in regard to Belarus, they mention the instrumentalisation of migrants, i.e. foreign governments seeking to destabilise the EU by encouraging people to go to Europe.
Yeah.
They don't mention it specifically in regard to
But the
Russia.
violence, the violence is disturbing. Why is this happening? I mean, these are officials, presumably, who are indulging in this, and there's no excuse for that under any circumstances.
But I think it's the sheer volume and the chaos of it, because Poland, rapidly had to create a fence and create these systems. And I think any time you've got everybody says, "Oh, Britain's the most racist country in the world," and I think you'll find there are some other countries that are a little bit more racist people in them.
I would say probably virtually all countries. Actually, is probably the truth.
And what's interesting is, this is bound to backfire for Putin because diversity is strength. So the more that come over the border into the EU, it's just making Europe stronger.
Yeah, what a fool. Anyway, let's move on to our next article now, and this one is in Friday's Daily Mail, and it looks like the Lion King's Circle of Life is Qatar's national anthem. What's this about?
Well, yeah, the Qatar World Cup chief says death is a part of life as he shrugs off latest fatal accident that killed a migrant worker.
What does he mean?
Well, yeah, he's gone all philosophical. He's gone philosophical because to try and deflect from the fact that the dodginess of hosting the World Cup in Qatar, and everyone's kind of forgotten a little bit about the workers that died building the stadium.
How many died? Do you know?
It's thousands. It's thousands in total.
Right.
I can't remember, 6,000, something like that. Yeah. And yeah, people have sort of forgotten about that now that the World Cup's actually started. But now that another death has happened, it sort of reminds us all of that. And yes, they fobbed it off, basically.
So I don't understand this. So this World Cup chief, so he says, someone's died. He says death is a part of life. Death is a part of life. That's not an excuse. Jack the Ripper could have said that.
Yeah, it's not an excuse. And, I think everybody says Britain's the most racist country and it's got terrible health and safety.
Yeah.
But actually, we've also got pretty good health and safety. So
we do.
On building sites, we've got, people wear hard hats and there's all these rules you've got to follow. Might be a bit of a pain sometimes, but...
And if people die by accident, no one says, oh, well... Death's a part of life, isn't it?
Yeah.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah. Like phone up the family.
I love what he said. He said, whether it's at work or whether it's in your sleep, death is a natural part of life. This was at work, mate. This was, you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
This is sort of unbelievable. And like you say, it's another death, and there have been thousands, but it is a reminder, isn't it, of the attitude, this sort of carefree attitude to life in Qatar and the regime.
Yeah, and because they've got an untapped supply of migrant workers who want to go over there, they're desperate for work. Yeah. So they're going there and being treated appallingly. You see in the Middle East, when I've been over there to do shows or whatever, you see, you'll be in an air-conditioned car or minibus or whatever, you look out the window and there's people in 45-degree heat just crammed into these un-air-conditioned buses, being driven from their migrant housing to the building site.
Unbelievable.
And it really is. It's kind of semi-medieval.
How do you do so many gigs over there then? What's going on there? Do they pay well?
Yeah, they pay well. You can stay in a nice hotel.
Leo's part of the problem.
Yeah, well, clearly. Can I go out there, do my sort of big gay drag act? Would that work out there?
No, honestly, you feel more free doing comedy in the Middle East than you do in London.
Not so sure about that. Anyway, we're going to turn now to Friday's Times. What's this about a prisoner swap? What's going on?
Yeah, so basketball star Brittany Griner has been freed. She was arrested in Russia because she had some cannabis oil in her vapes. So she genuinely had... The trouble is with cannabis oil, it's sort of been decriminalised or legalised in so many places.
Yeah.
People don't realise that it's still illegal in places. And Russia arrested her. She's a women's NBA, women's basketball player for America. She's 6'9" or something. And she's one of the best ever for women's basketball.
Yes.
Still probably not that good. For a man. But she was arrested in Russia, and this was, a huge sort of diplomatic issue. People in America were saying, we need to get her back. Not me. She hates America. She hates the West. She's spoken out against, how evil Western oppression is. So I'm like, well, why don't you experience some Russian oppression? See if that'll make you miss it.
I don't think you mean that, because I think you're aware that American freedom is also the freedom to criticise America, right?
Yeah, up to a point. I think, she was taking liberties. And there are other people in America who have been imprisoned. So Paul Whelan, a former Marine, has been arrested on dubious spying charges. He's been there for 4 years. But Biden selected Brittany Griner to release because, she's going to play great with his demographic. She's black, she's a lesbian, she's a woman, she's a celebrity. So he's going for the sort of
Nick,
easy win.
Do you take a different view on this one?
No, I sort of take the same view even more aggressively. It's a terrible swapping Brittany Griner for the Merchant of Death. It's kind of like if we swapped Leo for Nish Kumar on this show. It's like a terrible trade, because I'll tell you why. So Brittany Griner has a record of... Yes, you're right, she should still be brought back if we can, but she has a record of being arrested for assault. When she found out her partner was pregnant, she tried to annul the marriage, which failed. She hates the national anthem and said it shouldn't be in sport. She hates America. But actually, both these people hate America. And then you've traded her for the Merchant of Death, who's a dangerous arms dealer, who's known as one of the most dangerous men on the face of the earth. He has a 60-plus fleet of cargo airplanes that deliver... in a sort of dial of war. He sort of delivers weapons. He's actually trained child soldiers up. He sort of trains soldiers up wherever he goes and creates havoc. Extremely bad hombre. And Russia's got this guy back to help with their war effort. Meanwhile, America's got this basketball player. And as Leo says, they've left Paul Whelan, the Marine, which is absolutely shocking, and that they prioritise this instead. So, yeah, it's horrific.
OK, well, we're going to move on now to Friday's Telegraph. And what is this about America giving a warning to the Taliban?
Yes, we will take action, US tells Taliban as fears grow over terror groups. So this is sort of, Biden, following his pathetic botched retreat from Afghanistan, they're now saying, oh, well, you can't do stuff with terrorist organisations. So they've told the Taliban they'll take action, including precision drone strikes, if it allows terrorist organisations to regroup in Afghanistan. And they're saying, well, we have the capability to do that. And that's more or less it. I mean, Afghanistan's under Taliban rule. All kinds of other terrorist groups are springing up because they can't control it. And the US is saying, well, we will go back there and drone a few people if we have to.
Leo, thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, we saw Obama, various US presidents have carried out huge amounts of drone strikes in Afghanistan.
Yes.
Not all on weddings. They do sometimes get military targets. But this shows, as Nick says, the botched retreat from Afghanistan, created this vacuum that has been filled with... I don't know what it is about Afghanistan that they can't form, and, Iraq and places like that, if you remove the ruling government, they don't form a sort of stable democracy.
Well, Afghanistan has never been stable, of course, and it has a high proportion of theocrats who will impose their particularly stringent interpretation.
And it's very tribal as well.
It's very tribal, right, exactly.
Yeah.
But, I mean, did Biden really have a choice but to withdraw? I mean, wasn't Trump going to withdraw as well?
Yes, the way he did it. Trump wasn't president, and so Biden could have delayed it, could have done it in a more measured way. I mean, didn't
they leave a lot of equipment behind that the Taliban then seized?
A lot of equipment, thousands. The Taliban were then flying Black Hawk helicopters.
Right.
They're probably broken down now, but it was a ridiculous and also. People like comedians were being killed. And,
that was a horrible story.
Thousands of people who worked with NATO were then being targeted. Their families were being targeted. So, really horrible.
Right. Not good. But we have reached the halfway point of the show. Join us after the break. We're going to be talking about online radicalisation, white privilege, and what the Sun are referring to as snowflake cops. How exciting. See you in 2 minutes.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Dubes & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Mark Stein. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
Why not take us home with you by visiting the GB News shop at gbnews.store. You'll find all the official merchandise, a really good present actually for yourself, your friends or your family.
We ship across the UK mainland at no extra cost. GB News, the People's Channel.
Here on GB News Live, we'll be keeping you in the picture, finding out what's happening across the country and finding out why it matters to you. We'll have the facts fast with our team of reporters and specialist correspondents. Wherever it's happening, we'll be there from 12 noon on TV, radio and online. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Monday to Thursday on GB News, it's Bev Turner Today from 10 a.m. We're going to be here for you, our GB News family, to keep you up to date, but also make you smile.
The guy went from puberty to adultery.
And I can't wait to bring a few of my own opinions.
I have no time for cultural totalitarianism.
We'll engage in passionate, but always polite debate, with your thoughts and opinions at the centre of it all. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne. At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
Welcome back to Headliners, your first look at Friday's newspapers. Let's get straight back to it. Leo, this one from Friday's Guardian. And it looks like a lot of terrorists are being radicalised online.
Yes, they've done a study of all the convicted terrorists in Britain, and they found that most of them are radicalised online, according to this Ministry of Justice-backed study. So they reveal the importance of the internet to radicalisation. So in 2013, if you go back, like this is less than 10 years, less than half, 43% of those in prison for terrorism were radicalised online, and that figure rose to 92% over 2019 to 2021. I mean, obviously that includes lockdown. So it's hard to, form a terrorist cell when you've got to socially distance.
But it's not surprising, though, is it, also that terrorists use the internet to propagate their ideas? I mean, most of the Taliban are on Twitter, aren't they? So they have a good time there.
Yeah.
But, I mean, Nick, to what extent, though, when we start talking about radicalisation, to what extent are we, I suppose, taking away the culpability of criminals and sort of saying it's not your fault you've been radicalised?
Well, look, Leo was radicalised on 4chan, and I think in some cases you can't blame the individual, but it's a bit of both, isn't it? In Shamima Begum's case, we did tend to blame her because she did these heinous acts and didn't seem remorseful. But in some cases, if you are young, you are vulnerable. A lot of it happens on Call of Duty, apparently.
Really?
Yeah, it didn't used to happen with GoldenEye, did it, on the N64? Yeah. You're just playing Call of Duty and you're being radicalised.
How would you be radicalised on Call of Duty?
You can talk to people
on headsets, and also a lot of this
people like you enjoying the game. Would you like to do this in real life? Is that kind of
that doesn't happen with Sonic the Hedgehog, does it?
No,
sort of thing. No.
But I mean, so a lot of this is sort of sucking in people who aren't really terrorists, so like autistic kids who download bomb-making manuals,
young people,
things like
basically.
That. Yeah. So I mean, there's a lot of people with mental health problems, people who spend too long on the internet, and you can imagine if you're a teenager, you want to find out how to make a pipe bomb or something. You've got that on your hard drive. That's a terrorist offence. There is some good news, though. So those radicalised online, even though they make up the majority of terrorists, their plots are less likely to succeed. And, traditionally we've thought that if they're radicalised online, it's going to hide what they're doing. Actually, they're more likely to signpost their intent to commit terror. Possibly, as a side effect.
Because they learn on Call of Duty.
And they're not really... They're not really terrorists, some of them. They're not, hardcore,
Well, this is another problem, isn't it? You get this kind of concept creep. And, when you implement this kind of study can lead to laws which sort of crack down on internet, discussions, when sometimes they're not terrorist. They're just sort of a bit robust or a bit, like the Prevent strategy. They've had a lot of problem with this, with people being reported for fairly innocuous things because people don't understand the difference.
Yeah.
So, anyway, we're going to move on now to Friday's Mail. Nick, we thought you'd like this story, because this is about one of your political heroes.
It is, Andrew.
Yeah.
AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, my hero. The House Ethics Committee is investigating her. And if you don't know AOC, she's kind of like if Simon Cowell created politicians. She was working in a bar, and then they said, let's just get this sort of fairly pretty girl to say, progressive things all the time and nonsense.
Is she not quite intelligent, though?
She's reasonably intelligent. Yeah, she couldn't be completely thick if she to do the job. So she's all right. Well, not in that. Why am I saying she's all right? Yeah, she's not all right at all. She's absolutely really awful. No, she's ridiculous and awful. And she's proving it here because she went to this Met Gala. I can't believe I just said that. And she was comped a ticket for $35,000.
Ticket is?
Yeah. And she
for all these liberals to go
and she borrowed her dress. But the thing is, she implicated herself by saying that, because that sort of went against
the dress.
The gifting. Oh, there it is. Yeah. Tax the rich. Pretty ironic that she's being sort of accused of some sort of corruption while wearing a tax the rich dress, and she's now being investigated on an ethics grounds for that, which is absolutely hilarious.
Tax the rich dress to a gig that costs $35,000?
Well, the irony was well noted at the time. The other thing she's in trouble for, by the way, is she hinted that she may have a TikTok account, even though you're not supposed to have that because of potential Chinese spying and so on. So she's getting herself in all sorts of trouble. This is where the limits of her intelligence may kick in, Andrew.
Yes, because earlier you were praising her too fulsomely, I thought.
Yeah, fancy her.
What about you? Are you a fan of AOC?
No, I'm not. I'm not swayed by stirrings in my nether regions like Nick is. But it's not her only hypocrisy. She was also she was photographed in Florida, so she was a big proponent of lockdown rules and masks and all that sort of stuff. And then criticising Ron DeSantis, who runs Florida, criticising his lax lockdown regulations. Yeah. Then she was photographed on holiday in Florida. Probably, banging Mitsubishis and all the rest.
I mean, she's not the only one who got caught out in that way. Plenty of politicians did,
It's a phrase for the Democrats. Rules for thee, but never for me. That's a trope for the Democrats.
And that's why she'll get away with it as well.
OK, we're going to move on now to the Times and a plea for boys and girls to understand fertility doesn't last forever.
Well, I just had a baby and I'm 46, so it lasts quite a long time.
Yeah.
But research shows that women are at their most fertile in their 20s, but on average fertility begins to decline after the age of 30 and drops off sharply after 35. And men's fertility also declines, particularly after the age of 45, unless you're me or Rod Stewart. But the women's...
That's not true. I've heard of men having babies in their 80s.
Yeah.
So it might decline, but it doesn't stop in the way that a woman's fertility...
And there's more risk of having something going wrong with the baby the older you get as a man. But the Women's Health Ambassador, Professor Dame Regan, says that we should be advising children. We've got a fertility crisis in this country. The sort of renewal rate, the replacement rate is, I think it's about 1.6, 1.7. It needs to be at 2.1 for us to have a stable population.
Yeah.
So, we need to be encouraging people to have babies. And obviously with careers and stuff, because women are allowed those now for some reason, they're not having babies. So she says, and this is her words, not mine, she's like, remember that your ovaries get worn out or they get tired or they get too old.
I'm sorry, no, that does sound like you.
Unless it works at a quick fit.
That sounds like your Instagram parody account. Yeah, it is the kind of thing you might get men sort of saying on some certain channels, like Red Pill channels or people like Stefan Molyneux. But it is a woman saying it. And actually, it's completely fair because women have been tricked into thinking that in vitro fertilization is easy, which is actually expensive and very flawed, often doesn't work. Yeah. They've also been tricked, I think, in a larger sense of thinking, career should always come first and to neglect having children until too late. And it's been a big problem in our culture. And now we've got low birth rates.
I know. There are lots of women who live for their careers.
Yeah, but I'm saying when it comes to if you then decide you want to have a child, I think women have sort of been tricked into thinking I can then do it later, but you can't always is the point.
Obviously, you're not saying that women shouldn't have careers.
I'm saying that there's been a failure to address the point that Dame Leslie Regan is saying here, that actually you haven't got forever. And but you get criticised if you ever say this. I just looked this up on Twitter. I just Googled the person's name, and someone was calling it ghoulish and eerily reminiscent of fascist rhetoric. And you're like, this is why the left is going to make us all just die out, because we're not even allowed to talk about female fertility. That's fascism.
I think they're going to make the left die out, which I'm fine with. You know what I mean? So apparently right-wing people do have more kids, but I think we need to make it easier for women to have a career and have babies. So maternity, my wife's on maternity leave. You only get it's like 4 months or something.
Is that right? I thought you got more than that.
I'm not totally sure. I'm bad with counting.
You're the one with experience.
Yeah, but anyway, it runs out soon.
So you're actually pushing for women's rights at this point now?
I'm pushing for my wife to get more money.
OK, all right. You are a massive contradiction sometimes, Leo.
Takeaways and I eat some of them.
I think we were both defending women in that bit.
Yeah. Well, by your standards, yeah. We're going to move on now to The Independent now. And now this comes up again and again. White privilege being taught as though it is uncontested fact.
Yeah. Education Secretary says white privilege is not a fact. And I watched the interview. This is Gillian Keegan, and she was asked if school teachers are too woke. There she was a bit nervous. She sort of laughed nervously and said, no, I don't necessarily think so. They're hugely dedicated, etc. But on this question of white privilege, she said, no, I don't think it's a fact, and it shouldn't be taught as a fact. Things that are up for debate shouldn't be taught as fact. Now, it's too little too late, in a way, because we've been dealing with this stuff for years now. But it is better than nothing, and it is a start to say critical race theory must be criticised.
Yeah, I mean, this is the point, isn't it? The concept of white privilege is so tied up with the realm of critical race theory. Yeah. I mean, you could say, couldn't you, Leo? I mean, the premise that when activists say white privilege, what they mean is that in a white majority country, it's very unlikely for white people to experience discrimination on the basis of their skin colour.
What if they're trying to get a part in an advert?
Or an internship at the BBC or Channel 4 or ITV.
I mean, we get jobs and opportunities openly advertised discriminating against white people. So we can definitely say that there's systemic racism, institutional racism against white people. That's an uncontestable
What
fact.
I find very surprising about this is, we've study after study and freedom of information requests by groups such as Don't Divide Us have revealed that critical race theory is being taught in many, many schools in the UK. And again, commentators just deny it and say, no, it isn't. No, it isn't. Just not happening.
Yeah.
Well, and I'm sure that they will say the same to the Education Secretary.
Oh, yeah. And this soundbite is great. I mean, it's great that she said that, white privilege is not a fact. It won't make any difference to the curriculum. It won't make any difference to, these...
They'll say this is an example of white privilege.
Yeah. The social justice warriors, social justice has captured the education system, and they'll still be pushing this.
I was speaking to someone in the pub after my football game this week, and he was saying that, no, you're far too obsessed. Like, most people aren't like this. They're not bothered. They're not trying to push gender, puberty blockers on kids. Most people agree broadly with you. So I was thinking, Andrew, am I cynical? Am I too obsessed because I do this line of work? Or are they just naive about how far this has crept in?
I think they're right insofar as that most people don't really care, but they're wrong because they don't really understand the extent of the influence, particularly in schools. Because why would they? They're not in schools. Then even if they're parents, they're probably not asking to see the lesson plans, so they won't know. But we do know that it is absolutely endemic, not just in schools, but in the law, in hospitals, in police, in everything.
Yeah, particularly in the public sector. But yeah, you talk to people who work in social care or healthcare, and particularly education, and it's horrifying the stuff they say and the stuff they have to go along with, because they'll get into trouble, they'll be ostracised if they speak against it.
Yes, exactly.
This guy was involved in free schools, which might be a bit less captured by this stuff.
It would be. But bear in mind, I spoke to a nurse who was actually forced to acknowledge white privilege as part of her training course to be a psychotherapist. Right, so and that's NHS. Yeah. And they're saying that we don't, like she was saying, well, I believe that racism is about just treating everyone the same, irrespective of skin colour. And they said that is an outdated view. And she said, is that coming from you or is that coming from the NHS Trust? And they said the NHS Trust. Right. So that's pretty scary stuff, isn't it? Yeah. It's absolutely everywhere. Anyway, we're going to move on now to Friday's Sun. And the police are policing jokes. Again, they've been doing this quite a lot, Leo.
Yeah. I didn't write this headline. So snowflake cops ask parents not to joke. Police will punish misbehaving kids. So, parents say to their kids, if you, drop any litter or whatever, the police are going to arrest you. Yes. Or if you, do anything bad, the police are going to arrest you. This police force in Bournemouth posted on social media, we have a small favour to ask. Quite a few parents have been joking with their under-10s. Look, the police, they will take you away if you're naughty. We politely ask that you don't joke in this way. So they wrote that instead of actually solving any crime or stopping any burglaries.
But you say that to kids, it's a joke. It's like saying Freddy Krueger will come and disembowel you. It's just something you say to kids to get them to do the right thing.
Exactly. And normally the police, you get a friendly police officer to play along with it and scare your child.
Yeah, exactly.
It's fun.
Nick, this is just a bit of fun, isn't it?
It is a bit of fun. The police shouldn't be policing this. It's like Stephen Watson has said, they need to stay off social media, they need to stay out of this kind of thing. Yeah. And we see with Stephen Watson and people like that, some sign that the police are coming back to normal. Then you still have all these indoctrinated snowflake cops, as it says in the article.
OK, well, that is the end of this section of the show. We're going to take a little break now, but in 2 minutes, we'll have AI sharing your photos, a terribly gruesome nativity scene, and why you should always close the toilet lid. See you in 2 minutes.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own news from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
The national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here. You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
We are GB News, right across the nation. You can get us on television, on radio, on digital. We're absolutely everywhere.
Amazing! You see, amazing!
You remind me of me in the European Parliament. But here's the most important bit. We are not part of the mainstream establishment. We think and speak just like you do. We are the People's Channel.
Magnificent. That's really, really thoughtful.
Come and join us on GB News, the People's News Channel.
My name's Tom Harwood, and join me 9:30 a.m. every weekday for The Briefing, your one-stop shop for everything you need to know about what's going on in politics today.
I wonder if this is a deal that might need to be like the biscuits in this factory, twice baked.
Is there not an opportunity here to win out against the extremes?
Tom Harwood, GB News.
What are you going to do about it?
things should have been done differently, and they certainly are being done differently.
Don't miss it. The Briefing with me, Tom Harwood, 9:30 Monday to Friday on GB News.
Join me, Nana Akue, Saturday and Sunday afternoons on GB News. Expect fiery debate and passionate discussion as me and my panel tackle some of the biggest topics hitting the headlines. It's a place for everyone's opinion. No one gets cancelled, but no one gets an easy ride.
Oh, she's on it today!
Be ready for conversations that are fierce, frank, and of course, fun. Every Saturday and Sunday afternoon from 4 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel.
And welcome back to the final part of Headliners, your first look at Friday's newspapers. And we're going to start with Friday's Metro. What's this one about, Nick?
Crewe. This is Crewe compared to Hiroshima because there's a building site in the town centre. So this is a political flyer from Brian Sylvester. And he was merely, in my opinion, sort of slightly controversially drawing a parallel between Hiroshima and the centre of Crewe, saying that you haven't done any of these things you promised. He said originally Chester East in 2018 promised a 48 million town centre redevelopment, but nothing's happened. And he's saying, look, they can't even blame COVID. They're saying he just hasn't done it, so why not? So to try and get people's attention, he's put out this controversial flyer. And, of course, it's a bit offensive because it's Hiroshima.
Well, it's like a metaphor. It's like everyone says, oh, this place looks like a bomb site or whatever.
Yeah. Right.
You know, it's not meant to be taken seriously in that way.
Right.
But, Leo, I mean, what troubles me is the first line of this article says, a political flyer has sparked a bit of a debate in Crewe after the town was compared to Hiroshima after it was hit by an atomic bomb. And that sounds like Crewe has been hit by an atomic bomb. It's really badly written.
You'd think so if you went to Crewe, but actually it was Hiroshima.
Is it really that bad in Crewe? I've only been there to change trains. It's the only time I've ever been to Crewe.
This comparison is, I mean, it is hugely offensive to Hiroshima, which is now a thriving economy, you know, full of industrious people. But yeah, I mean, I think this is a case of people. Crewe's actually a great place. I don't know why I'm saying all that stuff.
Just because you like to slag everything off.
Yeah, it's more fun than saying it's nice. But it is a really nice place, lovely architecture and stuff like that. Maybe not in the town centre where they've got this building site. But this is a case of the substantive issue here is that they haven't completed this £48 million redevelopment, and instead of like dealing with that or apologising for it, they're saying, "Oh, someone on your leaflet was offensive." It's like play the ball instead of the player.
Why do people continually do this? They're so literal-minded, and they try and sort of police people's tone rather than getting to the nub of the issue.
Yeah.
Which is again and again the issue.
It's a pure deflection.
Yeah, of course it is. Anyway, we're going to move on now to this story, which is from Friday's Mail, and another photo app with another data breach. Leo.
So, yeah, think twice before downloading Lensa.
I've never heard of Lensa. What is it?
Have you seen there's these headshots going around where people are astronauts or sort of...
warriors and knights and things like that.
Century sort of real...
You'll have seen them without realising. Yeah, you've probably done it.
Real.
You've probably done it.
It does these magic avatars. You put your picture into it and it makes you into a Regency Prince or something like that.
So why is it not safe?
It's not safe because when you agree to use it, when you agree to its terms and conditions, which are 7,000 words long, so nobody's going to read that. Nobody reads terms and conditions anyway. I think there needs to be something like, we need to have some sort of rules around terms and conditions that you can't, because you could be agreeing to like giving away a kidney. You just don't know.
Well, there's a South Park episode with that plot.
Oh, right.
Where one of the boys just signs it and he agrees to some really horrific torture, which Apple then do or something. Yeah.
Right,
I won't give you these in specifics. But but that's the point, is that we don't really know what we're signing.
Yeah.
But all of these companies are mining your data and selling it on. I mean, is there anything particularly surprising about this? Why is this particularly unsafe?
Well, this one seems particularly egregious because they say that you no longer own your photo and they can use it or sell it, and obviously we've seen this abused in places, when people are building, actually feeding AI systems and they need faces to look at. It can also be used, fed into a facial recognition system. So, for example, in China, they've got CCTV that recognises your faces, and so it could be fed into that.
So this is pretty
scary.
You've
got all your details. And then if you've applied for a genealogy test, then they've got your DNA and everything as well.
So wouldn't this be a good argument to stay off all of these things, not just Lensa, but also Facebook, TikTok, a lot?
The great thing, Andrew, about being a sort of rebel legend is I just don't go along with any trends. You won't see me posting a black square, nor will you see me doing my AI face nonsense. So many people fall for it, and it's always a scam. It always does something dodgy. It's that old thing. If it's free, you are the product.
Yeah, but Nick, I saw you do that Gangnam Style thing when that came out. You have some trends that you just get on board.
Definitely didn't
do that. And also, you get round it by looking like Henry VIII.
Thank you.
In everyday life.
There we go. Let's move on to the next article.
No idea
this
what
is
that
Friday's Daily Star. And Harry Potter coming to life with the help of AI. What's this?
Yeah, this is an invisibility cloak.
Is it?
Which why
has it got Harry Potter in it?
I'm not
maybe
totally
he
sure.
must have had a cloak, an invisibility cloak.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, well, maybe the autocue should have been tweaked there so that we have a slight sense of what we're talking
when we
about.
understand our own links. Yeah, invisibility cloak, hide your face from AI facial recognition. It's more Philip K. Dick than Harry Potter. What it is, it kind of... so the CCTV will see you, but this will confuse the camera, and so it can't identify your face.
Yes.
So it's great for me because I want to go and commit loads of crimes. But it's also, let's face it, it's the inevitable... Huh?
Nothing.
Thank you. It's also that was fine. It's the inevitable backlash, isn't it, against the sheer amount of surveillance we have. We have more than 6 million CCTV cameras in the UK.
We do.
The second only behind China.
A lot. I mean, yeah, exactly. A lot more than most countries. And, you know, people used to complain about this. That Liberty, that group, very left-wing group, used to complain about this. But they've seemed to... They quite like it now, from the sound of things. You know, shouldn't we be complaining? We don't want to be watched absolutely everywhere that we go.
Well, we have had this sort of gradual drift into just accepting that we're being watched and listened to everywhere we go. And, you know, in the 60s and 70s, people worried about the government, you know, wiretapping their houses and their phones and things.
Yeah.
And now we buy the wiretap ourselves and put it in the kitchen.
Yeah, Alexa,
ask it for egg recipes.
But now you can get this jacket for 57 quid, and you'll be immune. You'll be like immune from all prosecution.
I mean,
not that I'm giving ideas to criminals.
You really are, Nick. Let's be honest. We're going to move on now.
Doing it.
This is one in Friday's Metro about closing the lid. Leo, this is a bit disgusting.
So yeah, apparently when you flush a toilet, it sprays. There's all these particles of poo and wee.
E. coli.
It's an aerosol.
Norovirus.
And I said aerosol there, just to be clear.
No, you were very clear.
If Ofcom are listening. So it ejects this big plume, and you breathe it in. It goes in your eyes, lands on your lips. And then you kiss
How did they not?
And they get...
How did they not know about this before?
They did this study with lasers and green lights.
Yeah, so people know about it, but they did this video where you see all the green stuff spewing out like a volcano of germs, and it's so disgusting. If you didn't have a complex about this already, it's another one you can have if you've got OCD. I always keep the lid down when I flush and at all times.
When you're using it.
Breaking the stereotype about men, because I'm a Sigma male, as we covered the other day. But the guy said at the end of the video, it's going to change our relationship with toilets. And I think if you watch the video, it really would, because you just see how disgusting it is.
Do you think, though, we're getting a bit too germophobic? I mean, let's be honest, like having a good immune system, getting down in the dirt, these sort of things protected us before the pandemic.
I haven't touched a door handle since the 80s, so you're asking the wrong guy.
So you were fine when the pandemic started and people were telling you to wash your hands every half an hour.
Well, I didn't get ill. I never got ill till 2022, and even then I'm not sure it was COVID. And I never wore a mask. Because masks weren't about OCD and hygiene; they were about how controlled you were by the narrative. I never wore
a signal to other people.
I didn't wear a mask. I'm a pure blood, and yet no COVID. I got something in 2022 that might have been it.
But Leo, don't you think these kind of articles are scaremongering to an extent? Look, this has been going on for years. Just because now we can see it because we've got the technology, now we're worried about it. But it didn't do us any harm before, and really, maybe we shouldn't worry about this kind of thing at all.
I mean, to a certain extent, maybe, but also, I don't want other people's poo particles landing on my lips.
Yeah, but it's probably happening anyway. All sorts of things are happening without you knowing it.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, they say if you look at it under a microscope at the stuff that's in your bed, the kind of the alien-like creatures that infest your pillowcase, you'd never sleep again.
Yeah,
so just let them be.
And if you go to a hotel with a UV light, 'cause this is the sort of the toilet, one of those hotel UV lights, I mean, we'd never stay in a hotel again.
You've never struck me as someone who is that concerned about contracting illnesses.
I always consider myself, you know, when it comes to things like aerosol plumes, I'm a provider rather than an imbiber.
You're a aerosol plume truther.
Yeah.
Well, let's move on now. We're going to go to actually, this is the final article that we've got tonight. This is a really unpleasant story. You know, we're coming up to Christmas, Nick. What on earth is going on here?
We normally end on a light story, but we're ending on a horrific one instead. This is barbarians smash 13th century Paris church's nativity scene and behead Joseph to the horror of worshippers. And this is at All Saints Church in Ipswich.
We should say that this isn't an actual beheading. It was a statue of Joseph.
Yes, I'm just reading out the headline.
Joseph.
Well, I said the church nativity scene. Don't worry, but it is. Yes, it's a disgusting attack on Christianity. We see it there. You can see the head at the bottom there. It's absolutely horrific. And this is the kind of thing that happens to Christians now. Ethan Klein the other day, very massive podcaster, said he wanted to stage a mock execution of Jesus. And this is the kind of thing, you can say anything you like about Christians. We all know this. Any other group, you say something, you're cancelled, it's the end of your career. But Christians, everyone turns a blind eye, and we are sick of it, Andrew. We need to fight back.
We do have an article in the Daily Mail about it, and we are talking about it right now, so we're not entirely ignoring it.
Yeah, but no one's going to be cancelled out. Well, they don't know who even did this, but in general, no one's going to be cancelled for attacking Christianity.
They don't know who it was. I mean, it could. I mean, I'm just saying, maybe it was a religious hatred, it was motivated in that way, but maybe it was just a bunch of drunken kids smashing up the first thing that they saw, right?
Yeah, exactly, but it's still bad, and you know for a fact. I mean, Nick's right. I mean, I'm not a particularly Christian or anything, but if this was a Muslim nativity scene with, I don't know what they have, but, if that was smashed up, then this would be front page of The Guardian, Britain's the most evil, racist, Islamophobic place. But, yeah, Christianity, everybody's allowed to just, do whatever they want to.
Well, that said, I don't think many people would support this kind of thing. I mean, I think this is just something that everyone would agree, irrespective of their faith.
Everyone who buys The Guardian absolutely supports this.
They think that this was acceptable.
100%.
Is that not just your prejudice? No?
I don't have any prejudice.
No,
I've just got well-thought-out facts.
Well, again, you hate Guardian readers, as you've said many, many times. Anyway, not a nice story to end on, but there you go. That is, unfortunately, all the time we have tonight. Thank you to my guests, Leo Kearse and Nick Dixon. And, of course, Headliner's going to be back tomorrow at 11 p.m, as usual, to take you through the next day's papers. And this time, it'll be Leo Kearse with Jonathan Cogan. Farewell.
I'm Mark Dolan. Join me at 11 on GB News for Headliners, in which I'll be joined by two of the UK's top comedians discussing tomorrow's papers. If it's an important story, we'll cover it, but we'll have some fun along the way. Headliners, the late-night paper review that won't send you to sleep like the others will. 7 nights a week at 11 p.m. on GB News.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debates, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I'd love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many